Welcome to Know Happiness, a podcast for those who seek, wish to find, and sustain happiness. Today, I'm here with a very special guest, Joni King. And welcome, first of all.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me. I know when I had asked you originally if you had any interest in coming on, you're like, well, I would, but I just really don't know what I would say.
Yeah. What can I contribute?
Right.
Well, stay-at-home mom here, no certification.
Here's the thing. The reason that I chose you is because I truly believe you are one of the most genuine, kind-hearted, loving, happy people I know. And so I think it would be really great for us to have a discussion so that I can just understand how it is that you maintain such positivity in your day-to-day life.
That's so sweet. Thank you. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So let's just get started. I want to know, tell me about yourself. Where are you from? What's your marital situation? Kids? Just kind of let's dive into that.
It honestly does start way back in the beginning because I think I had the most credit, and the most credit should go towards my parents, just my upbringing. My parents were babies when they had me. I was an oops. I was for sure an oops. And it's widely known too, because my mom was only 17. Wow. And the odds were stacked against them. They're still married, coming up on their 40-year wedding anniversary this June.
Wow.
And they are just salt of the earth, good people who've raised 3 girls. I'm the oldest of 3. And they just placed the best morals. We had, a strong faith. We went to church every Sunday too, growing up. I'm from a small little town in Iowa. It's about 10,000 to 12,000 people-ish, right by Iowa State, so just north of Des Moines. And I talk with my hands because my mom's Italian, so every now and then I might bump this, so sorry. And so my parents had me at a young age. I like to call it divine intervention. I feel like it was the best mistake they ever made in their entire life, which they say that as well. And I grew up there. My whole family was there, so my grandparents, everything except for my mom's dad. My grandpa moved to Kansas City in the early 90s. And then he's the one, as I was getting close to deciding where to go to college, he kind of lured me away to KU. So 4 hours away from my hometown. And so him and his wife, they've been married for, 30 years or so. They had me tour KU. And the day that I went there, the sun was shining, the flowers were blooming. It was just, I felt drawn to KU. Because obviously, I visited Iowa, and I love University of Iowa, but it was a cold, rainy, miserable day out. So everything just looked bleak. I was like, ooh, this does not match my vibe. I'm a sunny person for sure. And then I also toured a small private college to play college tennis there. And that felt a little too much like my home high school. So between those 3, I chose KU, thank goodness. And then from there, though, obviously, with my parents from a very humble upbringing that I had, I knew I would have to work my bahookie off while I was there. So I worked 2 jobs. My grandpa, who lives in Kansas City, he owned a catering company. He's owned several restaurants in Iowa and Kansas City, but he had a catering company at the time. So I worked every weekend, some weeknights too, for his catering company. And then I was a journalism major actually at KU, and so I worked for one of my professors as well. And he was in charge of all the state journalism contests in the state of Kansas. So I worked for him for the weekdays and got to know all the journalism professors, which was awesome, very helpful. So did that through college, and little old Joni, with her first introduction to like a big city and a big college, it was very eye-opening. The amount of money that was there too, I'd never heard of, Tory Burch or any of the, David Yurman, all that stuff was eye-opening. And I joined a sorority too, so it's even more in your face. So I definitely felt a little bit like a fish out of water in college and trying to kind of fit in. And clearly my attire wasn't up to snuff with some of the other girls, I felt like, or at least internally I felt that insecurity, Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was just very eye-opening for a small town girl to come to KU, and it was It was wonderful, though. I met so many great people, and there were so many good girls, too, that I met and I've maintained those relationships with, and I'm so thankful for them. And we've seen each other from the beginning phases of college to those early, early days, too, through college, and then in our early 20s when we all started, branching out and getting our careers and meeting our future husbands, too, and then branching out to then having families and babies, and it's been wonderful.
Now, how young are you?
I am 39.
Okay.
The last year in my 30s.
Wow.
Yeah. So Quinton and I met then right after college.
Okay.
So I didn't know him in college. He was a year older than I was at college. We had some mutual friends, but we never met, which is so weird because we had so many times where our paths would have crossed. And he always says, there is no way you would have liked me or dated me in college.
Isn't that funny, though? Because it's all about timing.
Oh, my gosh.
I'm convinced with my husband, if I'd have met him 10 years prior, I wouldn't have liked him.
Oh, yeah.
I would have thought he was way too arrogant and just, and
Yes.
I think him having cancer was actually what knocked him down and made him more attractive.
As horrible as it probably was, it was the best thing that probably could have happened to him and your relationship, and it strengthened your relationship, I'm sure. And
well, cancer can be a wonderful teacher. In fact, one of my teachers always says, when you get cancer, congratulations, you've got one of the most amazing teachers inside of you. And I think initially people are like, wow, what do you mean? This is horrible. But honestly, no matter what the outcome is, there are some really valuable lessons that it can teach you.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Fortunately for Scott, he's with us, he's healthy, and able to transform his life into something that he'd always kind of dreamed of doing. So it's been a blessing.
That's incredible. The best blessing.
Okay, so you get through college.
Yep.
And your major was journalism?
Yep, it was.
But then it seems like I had heard that you were actually doing like healthcare recruiting.
Yes.
So how'd that work?
Oddly enough, there was a family friend of ours from my hometown. He lived in Kansas City and he worked for Cerner, actually, at the time. Okay. It's weird. It kind of comes full circle. But at the time, right out of college, I felt a little burnt out on public relations. That was my emphasis in college. And I just decided that, because I was the president of the Public Relations Student Society of America at KU, and so I'd bring speakers from Kansas City in to speak to our association and group each week. So I decided I didn't really want to go that route, but this friend, Chris, said, Joni, you are one of the most social people that I know. He said you could literally talk to that wall for a solid 15 minutes at least. He's like, I think you would do great at recruiting. And my uncles own a recruiting agency here in Kansas City. And so I said, oh, I've never thought about that. I knew nothing about it. And so I eventually went to go work for his healthcare recruiting company, so recruiting nurses in the Kansas City area. And it was wonderful. I got to meet new people. I got to talk to them. I got to find out what really made them passionate, what they were really interested in, and then place them with companies and with different hospitals and agencies around the city. So
that's
kind
really
of a
cool.
Professional matchmaker, which is my favorite thing to do. Introduce people to other people and form connections.
Because I would think that in that career, you really get to know about not only the client, but your customer or you really are finding the best fit for the greatest level of success for someone.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So often people go into jobs just thinking like after an interview, oh, this will probably work out, not understanding the culture of the company or
so important.
The different personalities that may conflict with your own, so exactly. I think that's lovely.
It was I loved it. I did that for a while, and then the market in 2008 went downhill real fast, and so ended up having to find something else. And I ended up, luckily, a girl from KU recommended this position she saw for a physician recruiter. And so it just was a natural transition from nurse recruiter to physician recruiter in Kansas City, but it was doing healthcare physician recruitment nationwide.
So you probably got to travel a lot.
Surprisingly, I did not. It was
really?
all remote, but I was on the phone constantly to different hospitals all over the U.S. and then on the phone constantly with all these different physicians as well. So I would have loved to have traveled
I
more
know,
with it.
I'm like,
That was a
man,
bummer.
you don't get
Shoot.
to go
I
wine and
missed
dine
that.
these
I know.
potential, physicians.
Oh, I would have loved that. Yeah,
how
no.
cool would that have been?
Yeah, so I did that for a while, and then I wanted to get with an actual company. So I love being a company cheerleader. Ultimately, that's what it is. As a recruiter for a specific company, if I truly believe in the vision of the company and the leadership, I want to find the best people to come work for that company. And so I ended up getting an interview with Cerner, and then I ended up working for Cerner for, gosh, it was close to 5 years as a senior recruiter for them, and loved it. They were growing by leaps and bounds, and it was amazing. Probably wouldn't have left except for my future boss found me on LinkedIn randomly. And AJ lives in San Francisco. He was trying to find another recruiter. There's one currently in Kansas City for a solar company. They opened up an office in Kansas City that was going to have about 200 people here called Sungevity. They had a wonderful office in San Francisco. But they were opening this new office, and they hired Christiane, and then they hired Joni. So I got to help build this office from the ground up to, about 200 employees. And I knew nothing about solar, nothing. I still don't know if I know all there is to know about solar. I loved recruiting the people to come work for this company, and it had a really fun atmosphere because it was a startup. So,
Sure.
They had ping pong tables and all the snacks, and we would do different, contests and theme days. And it was so fun to add some creative spice into the culture too.
Well, what's interesting, I'm sensing a theme here with you, kind of this fish out of water, figure it out as you go, right?
Yes.
Like you got that
Yeah.
experience at KU.
Yeah.
And maybe some of that resiliency is from your parents. Think about that.
1,000%.
Yeah,
Yes, that's true. Yeah.
Young kids, it
Oh my
really,
gosh. Sink or swim.
Yeah.
Literally.
So
That's so
you
true.
carried on this that they've passed on to you, which is
Yes,
really cool.
that's so
Okay,
true.
so you're working at the solar company.
Yep.
Have you met Quinton?
Oh, yes. Yeah. So
Okay.
Quinton and I met in 2009. So we're coming up on this July will be 16 years that we've been together.
Wow.
Is that crazy?
That is crazy.
Wild. Because I don't feel that old yet. I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do when I grow up.
You're right.
And then we dated a year and a half. We're engaged a year and a half. And then we got married September 29th, 2012.
Okay.
So yeah, we got married when I was working at Cerner, if I can remember right. And then at that time, we decided I wanted to wait till I was 30 to have kids. I wanted to be married to him for, gosh, that 4 or 5 years. Math has never been my strong suit. Journalism major, people. And so I wanted to wait till I was 30 to start trying. And then we got pregnant right away, thankfully, which was a blessing. Had Caroline when I was 30, and as I was working at Sungevity, I had planned on going back the whole time. And then as it got closer and closer, we talked about it, and Quinton's been so supportive since day one. And, he's whatever you want to do, it sounds wonderful. We'll make it work. And so he's been my biggest cheerleader. I feel like I've been his biggest. But I decided in the end, after I had her, that I wanted to stay home with Caroline.
Yeah.
So she's now in 2nd grade. She's 8.5, and I've stayed home ever since.
Because I think I've known you since you were pregnant. You were pregnant with her around the time we met, because Scott and I have been together 11 years.
Has it been 11? Okay.
Yeah.
So it was around that. So we moved to our house in Western, the Wild West, as I like to call it, 10 years ago. We've been in our house for 10 years, 10 and a half maybe. So we joined the golf course, Shadow Glen, around that time. But you've known my in-laws for a long time too, so I've been coming around with them for a while.
Yeah. So you decide you're going to be a stay-at-home mom. How was that? Was that like, especially since you have been kind of a career woman, boss woman, like how did that work?
And social butterfly,
right?
I would say too. Yes, yeah. So the early days, it was a shock too. I would say, I think the biggest surprise is probably the lack of sleep too. I'm one who's always required a lot of sleep. My mom said it since I was a little girl. And so that's just learning how to function and take care of another little human being at the same time. That was a tough pill to swallow, to try to get used to that. And then socially, it is a little alienating at first, because you're all alone. And Quinton, my husband, does travel a lot for work. especially not in the early days, obviously, but he's gone most, at least 3 days a week, most weeks. And so there's a little bit of single momming happening too. But early on, I think you kind of have to, figure out and navigate. Now I have an amazing group of friends that are mom friends and that we can, bounce ideas off of. And, hey, is this happening to you? What happens here? What do I do with this? But back then it was early. So I would go to the park a lot. I'd go to play dates. I would schedule play dates with other moms who had newborns the same age as
How'd you find them?
Well, I remember one of my hometown girlfriends, we had kind of lost touch over the years, and her and I delivered just a few weeks after each other. And she's still in Iowa. I'm in Kansas City. And so we would be texting each other in the middle of the night, and we would be asking questions. And then our relationship really blossomed. Erica's her name. And she had Ralston the same time I had Caroline.
What a cute name.
Oh my gosh, it's such a cute
Ralston.
name. Ralston, I know.
He sounds like, I don't know, a rower or a crew member.
He's a real athletic little guy. Yeah. So old Raldo, we would be texting in the middle of the night. So I leaned on her. There was a girl from KU who lived in Lenexa, which wasn't too far from where I lived. And she was a journalism student as well. We weren't super close in college, but we both were due around the same time, and we knew that because of social media, Facebook at the time. And then we would, get together at the parks, and it helps to, when you're going through early motherhood, to have another person who's going through the exact same thing with you.
Yeah.
This is horrible. Misery loves company, which this is the worst way to describe motherhood. Yeah. Please don't hear me, Caroline. But it is like you're bouncing ideas and you're talking about, this happened to me. This happened to you too. Oh my gosh. And then you get through those tough times. And they weren't all tough, obviously, but Caroline was colicky. And there's a lot of gas issues going on. So just, finding those friends, and then from there you get introduced to other friends too.
Yeah.
And so we go to the library or the park, and I think the biggest thing that helped me from an early age too was, again, Quinton was so supportive. He's like, I think you would obviously do really well with one day where Caroline goes to, a little preschool, or not at the time, but a daycare at the time, just to give you, a few hours to yourself. To feel like yourself a little more.
Husband.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I hit the lottery with my parents. I hit the lottery with my husband. I feel very, very fortunate and blessed, but he's been supportive from day one from that. So we started with one day a week where she would go to this daycare not too far from us. And it was a godsend. Just showering on that day, running errands, driving a car, not toting around a little baby at the time. That was so helpful. And then as she grew older, we started going to the gym. And that has honestly been my saving grace since having kids. I've learned about myself that I thrive in routine. And I think all of us are kind of,
I was going to say,
creatures of habit for the most part. And so I found that every morning, and we do this, we go to the gym every morning where they have a kids center. And since they were, I think around, 4 months old or something, we would go every morning. They'd go in the children's center with their bottle or, what I would send them with. And then I would have just that 1 hour to get my endorphins going and get the blood flowing and get a good sweat in and just have 1 hour to myself to work out. And then my day is drastically better after that.
I think
that's night and day better.
Really important, Joni, for other women to hear that, because I think as mothers, especially when our children are small, there's this guilt, like if we're not with them 24/7, something could happen. And then, what if they need me? All the stories we tell ourselves. But, it makes me think of on the airplane when they say, parents, please put your oxygen mask on and then assist your children. If we're not okay, if we're mentally not feeling great, how do you think we parent? We parent from a place of frustration and irritation and annoyance. And children feel that.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. So I think that you are a wonderful role model for young moms to hear things like this, that put time aside for you as best as you can, because we all are, let's face it, learning as we go. And
Oh my
we're all
gosh.
going to mess up our kids in some way. Like, no
Yes,
matter how
true.
wonderful parent you are, there will
Yeah.
be something that will scar them to a degree and that they'll remember forever,
Yes.
because there is no rule book to parenting.
Oh my gosh. There's no rule book. You don't have to take a test. There's no license.
Right.
It is, terrifying.
Isn't that funny though? Like, you have to have a license to catch a fish.
Yeah.
You have to have a license to hunt. You have to have a license to drive a car. But to give delivery to a child and then raise it, like, anybody can do it.
And keep them somewhat normal and grounded and
Right.
raise them to be good human beings.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. That's why sounding off with like your mom friends is so important too. The guilt, I will say, like, the only thing that when I leave to go for a mom's dinner, because I think that's so important for me too, make time for your husband, go on date nights on a regular basis, because otherwise you lose touch
Yeah.
with them as well. And then I make time for my friend groups too. And you pick and choose. So you kind of have to weed out what fills your cup and what doesn't fill your cup. But I think that's important. I don't feel guilty about taking those times because it makes me a better mom too. I'm hearing advice from these other moms, and I am just in a much better place mentally too. So I think the only place I would say I have guilt is, and my mom says that she has the same fear, which is absurd, but I worry that I'm not playing with my kids enough, like truly playing, like get on the floor and doing enough Legos, or like, yeah, we'll go to the parks, but like, what do you want to do, Preston, our little 4-year-old son? Or what do you want to do, Caroline? What, devoting time. Because the stay-at-home mom life, I feel like people still think of it as a glorified vacation almost. You're at home.
Right.
And granted, you see us, at the park on a Tuesday at 11 a.m. playing. But what you don't see are all the outbursts and the temper tantrums and all the hard stuff that goes into the stay-at-home mom life.
Well, you're managing a home on
Yes,
top of it.
yeah,
You're
exactly. There's
responsible when
so
the
much to
garage
do.
breaks and
Yes.
somebody has to let them in. All
Yeah.
those little things. And it's so easy to get caught up in the task because
Yes.
you are at home, which is why working from home
True.
can be so challenging because
True.
it's like, oh, the dog's
All these
barking.
things that-
the
yeah.
dishwasher needs to be unloaded, and they
Let
start.
me switch that laundry load
Yeah.
out. And it takes time, and
Yeah.
there's not enough hours in the day.
No.
There are not enough days in the week. There's, you don't feel like you've ever mastered all of them. You're doing little bits and pieces,
Right.
and my mom, like I said the same thing. She's like, did I play with you girls enough? Do you have memories of that? I said, oh my gosh, Mom, yes. And so I don't know what her silly fear is over that, because I have the best memories from my childhood, and I never knew that we did not, come from a lot until you got older, obviously.
Sure.
But she was the most patient, loving, caring mom. And my dad is the most even-keeled, faith-filled, steady Eddie type of guy that I'm so thankful for
Joni,
them.
you're gonna make me cry. Like, it's so funny because our childhood and upbringing is so very different.
Well, and you can't pick and choose your parents. You
Right.
can't choose who you're,
Yeah. And yet I kind of believe that, like, there was a soul contract that I had with my parents because as challenging as my upbringing and childhood was, because I had a single mom who had to work and was not home. So I raised myself and then would watch my little brother, which is a
Lindsay.
lot. I mean, I was 8 years old and walking home from school by myself and staying for hours alone.
That gives me goosebumps because I cannot imagine my 8-year-old Caroline
Exactly. Me
doing
neither.
any of that.
Yeah.
That is, oh gosh.
But my mom didn't have a choice.
That's true,
It was like go on welfare and not
Yep.
work.
Yep.
Or try and better her life. I mean, she was putting herself through college.
Yes.
So she was gone at night. I mean, so I
Yep.
spent
That's
an
amazing.
exorbitant amount of time alone. And, for many, many years, I was very resentful. But now, today, I'm like, man, I am so self-reliant. I'm so independent. I can go travel alone into foreign countries and not be
You are
afraid.
just fine.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's because of that.
It has shaped you into the
Yeah.
person that you are.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So, it sounds like you're on the other end of that spectrum, as in, like, you got all these
Loving.
miraculous, loving,
Yes.
involvement from your parents.
And they made it work. My mom worked nights. She was doing medical transcription, so she worked nights. So my dad and her would literally pass like ships in the night, and she would hand off where, you know, he would take over where she handed off. So
Yeah.
they just made it work. But yeah.
So let's circle back to being a mom, because, you know, we had kind of talked about how your 4-year-old here is going to be starting kindergarten in the next couple of years, I would imagine.
Yep.
And what that means for you, you know, because you've spent, you know, almost 9 years of being either pregnant or, you know, and being a stay-at-home mom. And so it's almost like this beautiful new chapter is about to emerge in Joni King's life.
Oh, gosh.
And so what are your thoughts? What do you have some fear around that? Is there excitement? What are the emotions kind of tied to this next chapter?
There are a lot of thoughts that are really scary. It's very scary. I don't know exactly what's going to unfold. That's also exciting, I guess. So Preston, we're going to hold him this next year, send him the following year. So I have 1 year, and then I don't know, to be honest. I don't know. Like I said, I love recruiting so much. I love being the company cheerleader, and just, you know, it would have to be a company that I am very passionate about, though. And I would love to go that route if I do go back into the corporate world. Otherwise, I love being able to, like I'm doing today. After this, I'm going to Preston's preschool Easter party, and I'm the volunteer and bringing treats and helping run that. And I've had the ability to do that for Caroline for the last, you know, kindergarten, first, second grade too.
Yeah.
And I love that flexibility of being able to be with them when they need me to.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if there was something to where it would be flexible enough to do during the school day. That would be ideal.
Yeah.
Because I want to be with them in the morning and make them the chocolate chip pancakes that I made this morning. And I want to be with them when they come home too. 'Cause, you know, like I said, there aren't enough hours in the day, days in the week, weeks in the month. This time is flying by.
It does.
And it doesn't feel like it flies by from an early stage in motherhood, but then all of a sudden it just kind of accelerates.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to miss anything if I have the opportunity to do so. And I'm very thankful that, like I said, my husband's very supportive of that. And so I don't know. I also need to practice my golf game some more too. So, I don't know. I know. We got that together. Yeah.
Well, you know, it's interesting because it makes me think back to my first and second and how vastly different they were. My first child,
Oh my gosh, yes.
I had to work full time. You know, I was a single mom pretty much. When she was 3, I had to go. I was a nurse. I didn't have to, but that was my,
Yes.
you know, that was the only way I could earn a living.
Yes.
And so I didn't get to go to her, you know, PTA type, you know, parties for school and that kind of stuff. And I know that she really wished that I could have been that mom. And then with my son, I'm in a very different season in my life and able to stay home. So of course I went and volunteered and was there for all the parties. And so, you know, I certainly have a little guilt and regret that I wasn't able to do for one child. I'm going to get tearful what I could have done for the other.
Oh gosh, Lindsay. And I guarantee you that I'm sure your daughter does not feel that way at all. It is the mother that you are
Right.
when you're with her.
Yeah.
So I don't think you should feel that whatsoever. I know you are a wonderful mom and just a wonderful person. Every time I could be the happiest person ever if I could be around you at all times. Seriously, I could listen to your voice all day long. Every time I've seen you in all the years that I've known you, you make me so happy. Just seeing your bright, shining, happy face and giving you the biggest hug, it brings me so much joy
That's
too.
so sweet. Thank you so much. I
So
received
you
that.
should not. Oh, good.
Because I do understand what it's like as your kids all start going back to school and what's next, you know? And I fortunately about 7 years ago, I really started getting into spirituality and energy healing. And, you know, I went to massage school, you know.
Remember that,
That didn't
yes.
last
Yeah.
very long. It's extremely hard work. So unless you really
yes,
want a
yeah.
physically demanding job. But I knew that I have always been a healer. I was a nurse, then a massage therapist. Now it's energy and Reiki. And so it's just opened the opportunity. And I, like you, have a husband who's like, you know, go find what makes you happy. Go find your purpose. And it seems to continue to be evolving, you know, i.e. this podcast and being able to share this message of hope and happiness with other people, you know, because it hasn't always been that way. And my life is certainly by no means perfect, but it's a lot different than it used to be. And so it's just been a really big gift to be able to have the time and energy to go explore what it is that I want to contribute to the world. So I'm excited for you.
I love that for you, Lindsay. And I think that you are perfect for this, to talk to people and learn more about them and get them to share their story. You are just a very empathetic and positive person.
Thank you.
And I do feel like people, you attract what you project.
Sure.
I do feel that very strongly. And my parents, you know, my mom and dad both had two sayings that they would over and over repeat to us growing up. My dad's was always the golden rule, the golden rule, the golden rule. Treat everyone the way you would like to be treated. If there's one saying that I can associate with my dad, it would be that rule.
That's a good one.
And I don't think he has a single enemy in this world because he's just the nicest person. And Quinton says the same thing. He's like, there's only one person I know in this world who is the nicest person, and obviously besides you. Although I'm not a nice person before 9 a.m. I'm not a morning person. He said it's my dad. So that was his big mantra, as the golden rule. And then my mom's always, she is very Italian, but she also doesn't know what a gorgeous person she is inside and out. And so when we were younger, I grew up on country music. So my dad would always play this song, "She don't know she's beautiful." You don't want to hear my voice sing, but it was this old song. And he would always play it for my mom because she literally had no clue what a just gorgeous human being inside and out she was. She still doesn't. And so she would always emphasize to us three girls the importance of how critical it is, your insides. That's what's truly important, how beautiful you are on the inside, not the outside. Yeah. And so she's always pushed that. And I think with social media, I'm terrified to raise a daughter in this era with all of the distorted images and just seeing all of the beautiful people in this world who have been touched up and their insides don't match their outsides.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to try my darndest to make sure that she knows your insides are what truly count and what matter in life.
And they really are, because think about this. You see, let's say you just see this gorgeous woman and she opens up her mouth and she's hateful and she's mean, or let's say not very intelligent, or, you know, there's a laundry list of things. And it just makes that person not so attractive.
Exactly.
So beauty really is in the eye of the beholder, number one.
Very true. Yes.
But also how important it is for those two to match. And I'm with you, sister, when it comes to having daughters and the influence of social media and matching someone's outsides with your insides, you know, like, oh, they're going on these glamorous vacations and whatever. Meanwhile, they're being physically, you know, abused in their relationship.
Exactly.
But they give you the Instagram version of their life, you know, and people need to remember that you're seeing what they want you to see.
Exactly.
Not reality.
The glorified highlight reel.
Right. And I noticed that even I will do that with my social media. Like, oh, don't put that one in there. My hair's sticking up. And, you know, I'm going to be 47 this summer.
Oh my gosh,
and
Lindsay.
I can't even believe it.
I can't believe it either.
Yeah, and
well, you don't look a day over 27, there.
I was just looking at your glowing skin. I'm like, man, what do you do?
Thanks. Lots of water, lots of exfoliants, lots of serums and potions.
Yes, I'm definitely into skincare routine. I'm finally just getting to a place where it's like the message is more important than the messenger. So it really doesn't matter what I look like. And if people are going to judge me for my shirt being untucked a certain way or seeing gray hair, it doesn't matter, because all I'm trying to share is love and light and positivity.
Absolutely.
And so the people that aren't going to receive that really just aren't my people.
Exactly.
Yeah. But I think that comes with age.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
comfortable in your own skin.
Yes.
And knowing who you want to surround yourself with.
Yeah.
If there are people that are not bringing you joy or filling your cup, that's okay.
Yeah.
They can go find their people.
Send them
Go-
love.
Go over there.
And
Send them love.
Yeah.
I wish you the very best,
Yeah.
but you are not my people.
And isn't it funny? Because I remember being younger and, this desire to fit in and to be in the cool crowd and all those things. And I don't have FOMO anymore.
I know.
In fact, half the time when I hear
Yes.
there's something that I'm not invited to, I'm like, yes,
I know.
I can stay in my pajamas tonight.
Same. Yes. Yeah.
A
That's so
different-
true.
And I'm so excited to hit my 50s because I believe my 50s are really when things are going to take off. I keep hearing that, like, that golden era in your life of because my kids will all be out of the house. This will be
Yeah.
my husband and my time. And I'm not to say selfish era, but kind of like I'm taking back, like, it's the Lindsay show, literally,
Exactly.
and not have to feel bad about it.
Exactly.
I can still be a grandma and still spend lots of time with my kids.
Cutest grandma in the entire world. I still can't believe it.
I want to be called Glamma.
I like that.
Glamorous with grandma.
You should. That's the perfect name for you. Absolutely. I know. I remember when I had Caroline, we're like, so what, Mom, what do you want to be? Like, what's your name going to be? We chose Grammy first. So I got her an apron with Grammy on, all these things with Grammy. And then lo and behold, Caroline, she named her Mama. And my mom's like, Mama? She's like, oh gosh. And then now it's grown on her. So it's
Right.
Mama and Bampa. So they choose the names for sure. But Glamma, I love that.
Glamma. So you did touch on how working out and building up a sweat is something that really is just for you. What else do you do just for you that fills your cup and helps you stay so positive?
One of my biggest passions, and if I could do this all the time, I would be a very happy person. I love to be in the kitchen. Not so much baking, but cooking. I love cooking. Last night, actually, I went to lunch with two of my neighborhood girlfriends that are part of we have a little second grade mamas tribe. And one of them gave me her starter for her sourdough. So I'm going to try to make sourdough. So I've got I was sending her pictures last night. I had to buy a kitchen scale. She didn't have one before. And so, trying new recipes. Love, love, love that.
What's your favorite thing to make? What type of food?
Well, again, my grandpa, Ross Genovese, very Italian, who lives here in town. And I'm so fortunate I still have him in my life. He has been a huge influence on me. His signature dish back in his, like I said, a few restaurants in Iowa, and then owned a catering company here too, steak de Burgo. So I love making steak de Burgo. That's one of my favorites. And then any type of pasta. Italian. Quinton still laughs, although we had a wedding gift back almost 13 years ago now of a ravioli maker. 13 years in, and I still haven't used that yet.
I
Quinton's
wanted to
"Joni,
learn how to
all
make
these-"
Do you make homemade pasta? Have you done that?
I make homemade pizza dough. I will do
Okay.
that, but I have never made the homemade pasta at my house before.
Then let's have a date and let's do
Yes,
that.
I would love that.
I got
Actually,
the attachment for the KitchenAid.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't have that yet. I've made it at a friend's house once. So the Aaron and Brian Duffner, who golf with us, they had a pasta making little fun couples night at their house one time. So we did that with them and made fresh fettuccine. And then I think we did do the ravioli too. But I have all these kitchen gadgets I want to use. And I
Yeah.
feel like when you're in the trenches still, like there's still not enough time to do, even stay-at-home moms. I have a hard time finding time to try different new recipes.
Sure.
But it brings me joy. That's a huge one.
Interesting,
Kitchen.
Joni.
Let's do
Maybe
pasta
you can find a way
making.
to make extra money.
Oh my gosh, that would be amazing.
Oh my
yes.
gosh. That just kind of
I
like
love
a
that.
little light
Have a
bulb.
little guest appearance from my grandpa every now and then
Yes.
too. He's taught me so many recipes.
You should
yeah.
be filming yourself in the kitchen. Who knows?
Oh my
You could be
gosh,
the
that
next
would be
food influencer.
Oh, that would be incredible. I would love that.
Well,
That makes me
okay, so I
happy.
take it back. I just got FOMO that I was not invited to that pasta making couples thing.
Oh my gosh, I know. Yes. Okay, next time that happens.
Yeah,
for sure.
you tell Aaron.
Yeah, I
My
will.
invitation better be coming next
Absolutely.
time. Because that sounds awesome. That sounds really fun.
So fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, kitchen, all things kitchen and cooking bring me so much joy. And I remember telling my family back early on, before I even met Quinton, I said, someday I just want to find my Prince Charming, and I would pray for Prince Charming every single night. I remember in my early 20s. And then he brought me a king, Quinton King's
Oh
last
my
name.
gosh.
So my king came along, and then I said, also, I just want to travel and host and entertain and be a little Martha Stewart in Kansas City. And then, do you think that manifestation is real?
I do.
You do?
Well, I think
because I've wondered that, and I said I tried to manifest that for so long, and here I feel like either by answered prayers or manifestation.
Well, I think it's
I'm
both.
so thankful.
Yeah, I think God hears our prayers for sure,
Yeah.
and never says no, right?
Yeah.
It's like, maybe I have something better, or
Yeah.
not right now, or but
True. Again, timing is everything.
it is. And when we're ready, the door will open. And so I think a lot of times people get stuck because, like, I'm calling this in, and this is what I'm trying to manifest, and I'm not ready. And they forget that they're not in a space yet to receive that. Like you may, I think of like a young kid that gets famous way early.
Yeah.
They're not prepared. And then they, end up with addiction challenges and blow all their money. And then you see someone like a Helen Mirren who doesn't make it until, she's 60
Later
something.
on. Yep.
And has a much different. So I do
Very
believe in
different.
manifestation, but I also believe, like what you had said earlier about energy, and what you put out, you get back. And so I think all of those factor into what we call into our lives, and quite frankly, what we tolerate.
True.
You
Very
know?
true.
We tolerate what we think we deserve.
That's
so,
Your sense of self-worth
Yes.
is very, dependent on. Probably true.
Yeah, because I think about the place that I was in when I first met Scott. I was 5 years sober. I was very confident. I just really had my life together. I was in a career where I was helping other people get into sobriety and a variety of different mental health services, and was winning all kinds of awards at United Healthcare for it. I just had a lot of sense of self, and it was all very positive. And I believe I called my prince in. And what's funny is that along the way, I lost, I had quit that job. I began drinking again. I started taking away the things that he was initially so drawn to.
Sure.
And so, of course, then that created a whole host, and Scott and I's relationship has been up and down. And fortunately, we're in such a solid, good place. But a lot of that is because of me and the decisions that I make. And as women, I do believe we set the tone for the home, and we are the ones that inspire our men to grow and evolve,
True.
And Scott has definitely followed my lead. He's become far more of a spiritual man and interested in the things that I do. Our conversations are so more well-rounded. I remember years ago thinking, man, are all we ever going to talk about is golf? Like, because I'm not sure
I don't know if I can handle
that's
this
going to fill my
forever.
cup forever, and instead of trying to force or push my ideas on him or my lifestyles or what I wanted, I just laid back and I said, you know what? If this is all meant to be the way that I hope it is, then it'll evolve. It'll change. He'll grow. He'll grow up a little bit. And sure enough,
clearly it has.
I stopped
Yeah.
trying to force my
Yes.
will, and I just allowed. And that energy of, which is very feminine, which is flow and receive. And, we live in a very masculine world where it's task and checking things off a list and getting all these things done. That's the American way. That's success. But it's in that letting go and being more in the flow that all that creativity comes in, so we really need both.
I agree.
In my
Yes.
opinion.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
And even though, you mentioned tasks too, I found another thing that makes me happy, and this is just personally, I am very task oriented. So I may not have, work assignments that are due every week or so often, but I keep a running tab in my phone, in my notes section of things, just my running checklist of things. And it makes me happy to see them checked off. The most random things.
too.
Really?
Oh,
Yes.
I'm a list maker.
Me too.
Although I'm not that high
girl.
tech. I have to still write them down.
You do. Well, I still like a good old paper and pen sometimes
do.
too, but I keep them in my phone so it's with me at all times, no matter what too. Otherwise, as a mom, are juggling so many balls up in the air that things will just fall off the wayside. I'll forget them.
Yeah.
Like I said, the email I forgot about earlier, things just fall off the wayside if you don't have them in front of you, at least for me.
Well, and there's this certain sense of satisfaction of being productive and I mean, that's why I like the physical list, so I can literally physically cross it off.
Yeah. Yes.
And it lightens the day to know, because you can be so overwhelmed with the day-to-day task. And I think people far underestimate how much goes into being a stay-at-home mom. It's oftentimes a thankless job.
Oh, yep.
You don't get any pay. It's basically around the clock.
24/7.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, and people are like you're home just eating bonbons
I know,
all
exactly.
day watching soaps. You know,
That's
your day.
not what happens
No.
whatsoever.
No.
Yeah.
And God bless women that have the opportunity to do that, because in my opinion, it is one of the hardest jobs, if not the hardest job, and especially to be good at it.
Yeah.
So
imagine if all of your employees didn't do a single thing you asked them to do, or you had to ask them 8 times a day to finish something or do something.
Right.
Like, it can be very frustrating. And I thought I was a super patient person before I had kids. Turns out I'm not as patient as I thought that I once was.
Yeah.
But it's also very humbling, and you just.
So I heard something funny,
crazy.
because I'm not, patience is, not my
your strong suit.
And my children would tell you that. Like, I don't get mean, I don't get nasty, I get annoyed and impatient.
Yes.
And so I've just heard this funny saying, like, pay for patience and God will give you lots of opportunities to practice it. So like never pray for that, okay?
Yeah, exactly. Maybe that's my problem. Here I am praying for patience every night.
Yeah, he's giving you opportunity
Look at all these great
to practice it.
Practicing sessions, Joni.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Holy cow. Yeah.
So if your children hear this podcast, what would you want them to know about you, or what would you want them to hear in your story?
First of all, that mommy tries real hard. She tries very, very hard. And that, I love them more than anything. Motherhood it just transforms who you are completely. Before, I had a good sense of self, and I was, confident, and I loved who I was, but I am the happiest I've ever been with both kids, and having one of each, a boy and a girl. I am beyond thankful. I am beyond thankful for their health, and having a supportive husband who is there beside me as a partner in crime, and every step of the way. Also, who is hilarious. He is funny. It's an understated funny. You don't know that until you get close enough that he'll share it with you. But I feel so thankful, and I feel almost guilty that things are going the way I'm wanting them to go, and the way they, I feel like I don't know what I did to deserve this, but I'm so thankful for this life, and I choose joy every second of the way too. Also, we mentioned the golden rule earlier. You never know what battle someone is fighting, or what someone's going through on the inside, what you're experiencing, what they're going through with their family, or with their spouse or kids or anything. And I think if you choose joy and just treat every person the way you'd like to be treated, it is, critical to your happiness, the happiness of the people around you too. And I hope that I can just try to emulate that happiness and joy and create the happy, I feel like I've said happy 8 times, the happiest household I can. I'll turn on music and we'll have random dance parties in the kitchen for no reason. Like, you have to find joy in the mundane tasks as well when you're home all the time too. And just, there's a lot of heavy stuff out there in the world. And if you can be as optimistic as possible, I like to think that I'm an eternal optimist, glass half full versus glass half empty type of person. It really changes your mindset and shifts the way you look at things too.
Well, let me just tell you that you absolutely deserve all of life's greatest gifts. You are a wonderful person. I'm honored to know you. I'm honored to call you a friend. I'm so grateful you came on today because
Oh.
you know, there's a lot of women out there right now, especially talking about how being a mother robs you of, you know, so many things. And it's a lie, and it's not true. And it doesn't mean everyone has to be a mom. That's not what I'm saying.
No.
But it is one of the greatest blessings that a woman can have children.
Absolutely.
And be good at it, you know, and be able to give love to another human being unconditionally.
We're all a work in progress. We're all trying our
Absolutely.
hardest out here, but
Yeah.
and balancing just, you know, the person you are outside of motherhood too, I think is so important
Yeah.
as well. You need to have your own hobbies and interests and detach a little bit from motherhood too.
Yeah.
Your whole identity can't be motherhood.
Absolutely.
I
Because
think
guess
it's-
what? They grow up.
Exactly.
And you'll
Yes.
still be a mom.
Yes,
but
exactly.
they aren't going to need you quite like they do when they're little. And I'm getting a taste of that with teenagers
Exactly.
and 22-year-olds. And, you know, and so I just want to thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for coming on here. I know you're busy, and I value your time, and I value your friendship. And thank you.
Thank you so much.
Love you.
I love you.
Yeah.
Thank you.